Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of the Outlaw Creatives Leaders in Sustainability podcast and vodcast. Really excited to be joined today with Carina and Chantal from Event Cycle. Good to have you. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to come on. And I'm really looking forward to get to know more about the business. And what you are doing in the world of sustainability. So for the purposes of the listeners, a good place to start, Carina, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about your backgrounds and also how the business started.
Sure, yes. Thanks for having us as well. Just a little bit about Event Cycle. So the idea of our business is we look at turning event waste into donations for charities, community groups, and social enterprises. So that's sort of us in a nutshell. But a little bit of background on us. Both Chantal and I have worked in the events industry for all of our professional lives, and mainly in corporate events, but we've done everything from exhibitions, large corporate events, road shows, product launches, you name it, we've probably done it. And both Chantal and I met in an experiential marketing agency, where Chantal was a event director, and I was a technical production manager. So in essence, Chantal planned it all, and then I built it, and then we both threw it away, unfortunately. So just to give a bit of an idea of what we would look at during an event, because I think some people, if they're not from the events industry, don't acknowledge how much waste we generate, and it's a bit, it's not great, I have to say. But if you look at exhibitions that are happening in any major centre, these exhibitions will go on for like 1 to 3 days, maybe maximum, and the majority of the items in these exhibitions will then be thrown out. It's a one-time use, and stuff goes straight either to landfill, which we're hoping doesn't happen as much anymore, or gets recycled. But the majority of the items are still absolutely great to use, and it's a complete shame that all of this is thrown out without even thinking about it. I mean, there's logistical and time restraints, but that shouldn't be the underlying reason for that to happen. So coming from that background, both Chantal and I sat together at one point and we're thinking, okay, all of this stuff can't, there has to be a change, that something has to happen. And both of us have actually been volunteering for forever with all different kinds of charities. And especially during the pandemic, we understood and saw the need that there wasn't just the requirement for monetary donations or for volunteering time, but also for actual stuff. So anything, arts and crafts supplies, TVs, iPads to go to school with, furniture, you name it, there's a demand. And so we thought, okay, hold on, there's a massive demand from charities. There is a massive supply from the events organizations. Why not combine the two and make that sort of into a company and into a service that we can provide? And so that's basically how we started and founded Event Cycle, because we thought, if there's no solution, we might as well be the solution.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think what I picked up on there is what I think this is quite common, and I think if people are removed from the direct impact of the problem, they're not aware of it, and sometimes that can be just because they're not aware of it, or it can be ignorance. But I think like this is how problems are solved, when people are actually involved in the problem and decide, okay, I've had enough, I'm going to solve this.
It's all about how annoyed you let yourself get before you make a change.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And would you be able to, adding on from that, like I actually think things are changing so quickly and there's so much pressure on humanity that actually startups, new businesses, are going to play a massive part in this. So can you just give us a wee bit more information on how long ago you started, and kind of, I guess, what kind of like progress and traction you have made so far? Yeah, that'd be good.
So I think we came up with the idea last September, possibly, sat in the sunshine sometime, and then we founded the company, officially registered in November, and started work on it, although we kind of started formulating the ideas just before that. And then we started doing a soft launch in February. So from February to now, we've had 630 charities sign up all across the UK, so we know where they are, what they do and what they want. And then between then and now, we've done 50 individual projects for the events industries, that be that suppliers, venues or agencies, or actually directly with clients as well. So there's been a massive pickup, even though we were kind of in lockdown during it. And we started totaling up how much it would cost to buy all of these items new, all the stuff that we've donated to charities. At the moment, we're totaling £100,000 worth of items that we've repurposed.
I think we're actually like 130 at the moment, 130,000.
Even better. And that's during a period of lockdown when events haven't been taking place necessarily. So this has been like a few studio events here and there, and some warehouse clearances we've done to help suppliers with their space. So we're hoping as the events industry gets back to normal, it'll go even further and progress even better.
Wow, that's I guess that's a really strong signal of just how much waste there is and how much of an impact the business can have.
And that's only a fragment.
That's everything we've been able to touch, which is not everything that exists. So.
Yeah.
So just a bit of a side question, but give us some examples of the kind of projects that you're involved in and what sort of stuff you recycle. That'd be good.
So the way that we work is we have people from the events industry. They contact us. They tell us what they have, where they have what they have, and when they want to get it collected by. And then we send them a quote. We find homes for it. We get it all collected, so they don't have to think about any of the logistics. And then in the end, they get a certificate stating what they have donated and to whom. And also we'd write up success stories to just shout about the good deeds that they've done. So they also get like a really positive impact element for it. Yeah. And we also publish it on our social media as well. So that's sort of the benefits of what they are getting from us. And projects that we've done, range from suppliers for the events industry, scenic builders, clients themselves, as Chantal already said, all sorts of stuff. But there's also obviously we basically have two sets of clients. We have the events industry, but we also have the charity side. Yeah.
And what is there any items that stand out that you have recycled? Because there must be a broad range of stuff.
Yeah, there's a massive amount of stuff. So we talk about the projects that we worked on. One of them we did a clearance from a set designer's warehouse, and there was everything from painted guttering to lockers, whiteboards, set flats, polystyrene balls. There was sand, scaffolding, literally an enormous variety of stuff, loads of fabrics that were sat everywhere, and in the middle of all this mess was this enormous golden ball and chain, and it's made of fiberglass, was used as a prop for an event, and we never thought we could replace it, place it with a charity. But whilst walking
we're talking 1.50 meter diameter, so big shiny ball.
Wow.
Yeah, so we didn't think we could place it, but I was walking through this warehouse with one particular charity, and they come to collect some canvas, they come to collect some timber to build some kayak sheds. They do lots of water activities with low-income families or disadvantaged families. And they were talking about it being their golden anniversary, and we walked past this golden ball and chain, and they said, actually, it quite looks like a water buoy, and they, like I just said, they're a water charity, and they were like, that would look really good on our lake. So guess where it is now? It's on their lake.
Wow.
50th anniversary golden buoy in a lake.
Wow.
Who would have known?
I think there's going to be a lot more examples of these weird and wonderful things that you place in the future.
Yeah. The scale of it is just the fun part. Like we had a as part of that as well, we had some installation that we needed to find a home for, and one of the charities that has signed up, it was actually a community group, had said that they had been let down by the local builders in their area for years and years, because all they wanted to do was renovate their loft, and they needed some insulation for that. And everyone had fallen through, and so we called, and she was like, oh my god, yes, of course. And so she got 235 panels of insulation, and that's now in their loft in their community centre.
Wow, that's
the range.
That's great, and so practical. That's amazing. Okay, so we've obviously spoke a lot about kind of how you do things and what you do. Like to dig a wee bit deeper into the nitty gritty. I guess the purpose, so the why. I'd really like to know why you decided to set up this business and the impact that you want to have, and I guess some of the problems that you're solving as well. Big question, but hopefully we can answer it.
I think the why is because we can't sit around and pretend we're not responsible for everything that we produce at the end of the events. It's so easy just to sit there and think on your event, oh, it's just one thing going into a skip, it's just one thing. But if every single event does that, then the amount that builds up is massive. And like you said, if you can't see it, you don't understand the scale of it. And I think we've now definitely through this work understood the scale of the problem that we have within events. We don't use lots of reusable stuff. Some of it is hired, but a lot of the time you get pressured into buying stuff that isn't, and it does have a useful life. So when it is bought for just that purpose, it doesn't have to just be used for 3 days, it can go on. So the why is, why are we wasting it in the first place? We have to solve that problem. And I think sustainability has come to the forefront, certainly over the pandemic, and we've seen the impact that human beings have through all the different weather systems that are occurring. We are making this planet worse, and we can also make it better. So there's a massive why behind what we're doing.
Amazing. And just what I'd like to ask is, so you've obviously got two different types of customers, but I guess the customers who run events, what is the general consensus? Are people willing to take responsibility? Are they ignoring it? Based on your experience, are people receptive to reusing, particularly reusing before we get to recycling? Are people open to this?
So I think before the pandemic, that was starting to happen. I would say less due to sustainability reasons and more due to budget reasons. So like, let's say an exhibition stand, people would say, oh yeah, we'll build it, we'll keep it for 3 years, we'll store it every once in a while, and it'll be used on 6 exhibitions.
Okay.
Now, that shift has changed, and I mean, there was a bit of a change before the pandemic, but a lot more now, since people had time to think about stuff, think about what they're doing and how they're treating events, had time to pause and reflect. and are now able to go back into their events and say, oh, you know, there's been quite a lot of wildfires, there's been heat waves, there's been terrible flooding, or like nature's telling us, guys, really, it's too late. And so people are definitely considering it more, and it's coming a lot more into the planning of everyone, and thankfully from the get-go, as opposed to last minute thoughts of, oh, we probably should have done something about that.
Yeah. And I guess my next question, it goes back to the point I made earlier about this whole awareness thing. I think I guess people need to be aware of the problem. They then need to take responsibility for it. What is your plans for the future? So like, how much can you scale this business? How much of an impact can you make? Tell us more. And is there any barriers to growth?
I think the only barriers are people's resistance due to, like Carina said, budget is a massive thing, but we try and price ourselves so that it would come in line with your waste budget line, and it will just be a part of that rather than an additional amount, so it costs the same or less than a lot of skip options for that. And in terms of scale, we're trying to tackle the UK first, so we're going out to market to all regions of the UK, and we've already done events everywhere. Lots of people ask us where we're based, and we say London, but no, we operate to every corner you can think of. Wherever an event happens, we probably have a charity in that area that can pick something up, and if not, I said we've only got 620 charities, but within that we've got charity groups, so then they send it out to their network as well, so we can touch every single corner of the UK with hope, and then possibly expanding out to Europe at some point, but not just yet. We get a lot of questions about Barcelona and Amsterdam and Germany, and we had a question this morning about the USA, but we'll just do the UK first.
Yeah, let's do the UK well first, and then look at world domination. I'm kidding, definitely not world domination. Sustainable growth.
yeah, absolutely. Purposeful world domination is fine.
Yeah, okay.
But
on the other hand, I mean, it's not just that expansion of the scale, but maybe Chantal, you want to talk about the social impact element of it?
Yeah. The number of charities that we're going to be able to help with all the stuff, all of the stuff that we're giving them saves them money that they can use in services to help people. So when you have a person that's come off the streets, for example, and they're getting rehomed, the council tend to take everything out of the flat. And I mean everything, from the light bulbs to the carpet, so it's completely empty. And housing associations have to spend money on fitting that out. Now, if we can provide them with the carpet, the kettle, the table, the chairs, the sofas, then they can save that money for trying to help that person get job skills, or get suits to go into a job, or just help them reintegrate into society. So the social impact of this is absolutely massive, and we can reach so many different charities because of the so many different things that we can provide to them.
And what we also want to do is we just want to encourage thinking of that social impact from the get-go, so designing with social purpose in mind, and making sure that anything you do has that sort of element integrated in that decision.
And I think nothing exists in isolation, so a lot of these problems are complex, and I think when you fix one problem, you then need to think about the impact. So that's nice to hear. Like, it's nice to hear that it's not only reusing stuff, we could also be helping charities in the communities and the purpose that they exist to solve. So that's really interesting. In terms of, so if we think of the audience that are listening, there's going to be a broad range of people listening to this, but what I'd like to pick your brains about kind of practical tips on potentially what kind of consumers or businesses that are running events or charities practical stuff that they can think about. Any tips that you've got, I think that would be useful for the audience.
I think the first place is to start with the circular economy. That's all about keeping materials in use and out of landfill. So the perfect circular economy would be a t-shirt that's been made, it gets used and then recycled back into a t-shirt. That keeps it into a closed loop and keeps the materials constantly in use. And the principles behind this are reduce, reuse and recycle. You need to apply that to absolutely everything you do. So in terms of business, it's reducing the amount of food you produce for an event, so know how many people are coming, so don't just put on a massive buffet. Reuse anything that's left over maybe from a previous event that would have otherwise gone to waste, or look at food recycling schemes, and then recycling it, so making sure any usable food, for example, goes to a food distribution charity or gets composted in the correct way. So that's the principles that you should apply. And then in terms of life, again, applying that to every single buying decision that you make. So more than likely there's a sustainable alternative. Like when you go to buy a t-shirt for yourself, I use the example of Topshop jeans. I love buying Topshop jeans, but more often than not, there's people on Depop, on eBay or Vinted that have bought those jeans and never worn them. So I always look there first. So that's reusing stuff that's sat in somebody else's wardrobe rather than getting another mass-produced item that's using up lots of raw materials. So there's plenty of ways to do it, and there's loads of places for you to recycle your clothes, or you could repair them. Like my mum left me her Toyota, who also makes sewing machine, and I sit there and I will repair my clothes because there's a life in them. Just because they've got a tear in them doesn't mean they should go in the bin. And then there's so many stuff, like cleaning products can come in refillable bottles now, like Smol do stuff like that. You can change your energy supplier both at your business, at the venue you're using for an event, or even at your house. I think we use Bulb for our office personally. And then the CO2
they're great. I mean, just 100% renewable energy and electricity, solar, hydro and wind. I mean, what other option is there to choose? Done.
Yeah.
And then simple things like, for events, it's the same things you would think about in your life. So transport, your CO2 footprint of yourself, of your things, of your deliveries for events, and for how you travel to work and from work. So I cycle all the time, and yes, it's quicker than driving and it's wetter, but I also get my exercise in. So just thinking about ways you can offer alternatives to people that are either coming to your place of work. So secure bike storage will help that, or a secure place at your event to store bike storage, and encouraging safe routes for people to travel in. Or if they can't do that, carpooling as well. That's always really useful. And what you eat is really important. At home, you can have a reduced menu of a plant-based diet, or just less meat. Not everybody needs to be a vegan to change the world, but we do all need to eat a little bit less meat. And what you do with it afterwards, well, Carina's got a very clever solution at home. You don't have a garden.
Yeah, so I have a little, I want to say I have like 500 little friends that are living with me that are helping with my food waste. I have a little vermicomposter, so I've got worms in my flat that don't have to live outside, but they get a chunk of my food waste every once in a while, and I get really great soil from it, which in turn then helps my urban jungle of plants that are sitting around.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely unusual for people to come and visit, and they're like, "What's that box?" It's like, "It's my worms." What? Yeah. But I mean, it's all of that. It's buying local. It's making sure that when you're buying anything, that you're thinking about that sustainable option. Like for example, these headphones. A while back, I was like, "Oh yeah, I need new headphones," and instead of buying the first ones there were, I looked into it and looked at sustainable versions. So, the wood is certified, so that has been, made out of regrown, or it goes into that regrowing scheme. The textile of the headband is recyclable, like all the different parts are. But you just have to put in a bit of time to find those options and look and really, make sure you're putting your money in the right places, and not just like the small elements, but looking at where you invest your money full stop. What bank are you with? Where does that bank invest their money in? Are they investing it in coal and fossil fuels, or are they looking at renewable energy sources? Like all of that, there's also things to consider. And once you start writing a sustainability policy, there's a lot of things that you're like, maybe I should think about that. Oh, maybe I should have, let me search into that. And then it spirals, but it gives you so many more points to look at and what to do in how to become more sustainable in all of your choices.
I think it's about, once there's almost like an inflection point for people. So once you acknowledge an action, you then, like you've just explained, you then start to think about how other actions impact stuff. Scott, so a chap called Scott Poynton, who we had on as a guest, he done a really good explanation of using a bath. So it was like the climate, we treat the climate as a bath, and we can put holes in the bath to stop it overflowing, and he explained it as when people are kind of saying we're offsetting our emissions. And he was quite direct. He was like, that's just a way of deflecting, not taking care of the actual tap that's coming in, because actually we need to turn down our individual taps and we need to look at our own individual actions rather than just paying to plant trees or whatever it is. We need to take responsibility for our own actions. What
I find really entertaining about the whole offsetting process is, people are all about, let's just offset the whole event, or let's offset everything that we do. But if you look at research, the elements that actually provide you most carbon collection, basically, is things like seaweed and plants in the sea and algae. Now, at one point I was like, fab, I'll look up one of those schemes and let's do our offsetting that way, because we have some online costs that we can't minimize.
Right.
There's not that many offsetting schemes for seaweed and algae and looking at that marine element and planting those algae, unless you know of any, and then I would absolutely love to hear about it. But it boggles, I don't understand, because surely if that's the best way to capture CO2 versus a plant or a tree that will only actually capture what you need it to capture in 30 years time, why isn't this being pushed? Why isn't that actually the offsetting scheme? And you can eat it. You can eat it.
So do you, I guess on that note, do you have any other tips that you'd like to share, or could you maybe, I guess, just let us know how we can get involved in the work that you can do? That'd be great.
I think my last tip is very general and just would be, don't stop learning and stay curious and keep educating yourself. And sometimes sustainability can seem like this vast mountain and scary, but if you look at it from one step at a time and one little piece, soon you'll have, it's the whole, you do one piece a day and then suddenly you've done 30 really quickly, or look at it in small increments. But keep your eyes open for new initiatives, and never stop learning and educating yourself. I would say that as a tip.
And see, sorry, Chantal. Carina, just going back to what you said earlier about having a policy. I actually think strategy plays into this, because if you don't have a strategy, I think people can become quite overwhelmed. There's so much to do. Where do I possibly start? But could you just expand on the policy element, a sustainability policy?
I think for, I mean, at least for us, it was the policy element was a gathering. You know, a lot of people already do quite a lot of stuff in terms of sustainability, but if you actually populate it in one document somewhere where everyone has access to it, A, you know what you're doing, B, people will know what you're doing as well and can hold you accountable to it, and it just shows what you're doing in terms of your impact. So we set up our sustainability policy, and we just keep adding stuff to it. We've split it out in what the problem is, what we're trying to action, what we currently have actioned, and what we're planning to action in the future. And it can be a flexible document, but I think it's really important to have something where, you know, you can, it's a guideline. You can see what you can do and also what you might still be missing.
Yeah, and I think that can really counteract the kind of overwhelm, because what we don't need is people to be perfect. We actually need action now, and exactly. I think having a framework to follow can really help. Okay. Sorry, I interrupted you earlier, Chantal. Was there something else you were going to say?
I was just going to say, we're always here to help. Like we keep having all new ideas all the time, and people challenge us with new things, not just within the events world, within their personal lives. So if you do need some help, just drop us an email. We're more than happy to jump on a call and say, okay, this is how you can do it. Because we love it and we're learning too. So we'll take you on the journey with us.
We also get to know so many people from different strands of life, and the conversation we're having are so beyond what we originally expected to be having, like with large waste management companies that are looking at new ways of processes, from like McDonald's and like large scale corporations, to retailers and them looking at the like return schemes or graphic redistribution, or just to local businessmen or businesswomen who are looking at, you know, making a little piece of change in their world and just seeing how they can learn about shouting about what they do or how their website looks. I mean, anything. And it's all about that community piece and networking element and just connecting and just being nice to each other and talking and referring people to each other. I think that's also really important.
Yeah, I think business needs to collaborate closer, and I think we need to reevaluate what competition means, because if we're competing and not communicating, we're probably not going to achieve what we need to achieve in the next decade if we don't start working closer together.
Absolutely.
So we're coming to the end of our chat. This would be an opportunity for you to let people know, I guess, how they can get involved or how they can reach out to you or the business. Could you let us know that?
Yeah, so best to send us an email. We're available under eventcycleuk@gmail.com. You can also check us out on our website, which is eventcycle.org. And then we're on all of the social media, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. So Facebook is Eventcycle, Twitter is Eventcycle UK, Instagram is Eventcycle, and LinkedIn is Event-Cycle.
Amazing, thank you. Well, I think what I've definitely took away from this conversation is we have a lot of clients. So like originally when we set up this call, I was like, okay, we're not involved in events, but actually now having spoken to you, it's very apparent that, okay, we have clients and businesses that run events. So actually the web is a lot tighter than you originally think it is. So I'll certainly be checking out the website and looking for opportunities to introduce you to businesses that we support and work with. So yeah, that was really, really interesting, and I appreciate both of you taking the time out your busy schedules. With events opening back up again, I'm sure you'll be getting busier and busier.
Yeah,
very.
But on the flip side as well, if you know any charities, anyone who might be interested in receiving, so just to note, and any charity gets the items that we provide for free, no charge. So it's a win-win. If they sign up to our platform, perfect, they can access items for free that they might need. So just as note, if there's anyone who has like a community center or a local charity that they think might be really good to come and join, have them sign up on our website.
Amazing. That's a critical piece of information, so I'm glad you did that. Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you very much for joining us, and I'll speak to you both soon.